So now we're going to get in the nitty gritty. We're not going to pull up our data yet. So we're going to talk about, we're going to have one conversation. I'm going to share this with, if I can physically do it, I'm going to share this with the teacher leaders this afternoon. This is something we're really proud of that we've been using for about a year now that I really want us to talk about. Before I go into it though, does anybody, when we talk about status, would anybody like us to go over status briefly so you can have those conversations with your teachers? Yeah? Okay, let's do that. I would rather take a few minutes and talk about status because we've been talking about it as though everybody understands it, and sometimes I do that and I shouldn't. There are a couple caveats to status this year that I think we need to go over anyways. I hate doing it because it's really complicated, but we're going to do it. So, we understand there's 6 standards. For you guys, there's 8. 5 of them are observational. That's you in the classroom. You guys know that. I don't have to tell you. Like I said before, and you can say the guy from DPI said this, you cannot be distinguished in all 5 standards. It's not designed that way. Distinguished more times than not means I'm teaching adults. I pay you to teach children. I hired you to teach children. That's exactly what I say to teachers, and I have said that. So, Miss, what's your name? Mm-hmm. Rachel. Rachel asked a question about re-estimation. If you guys don't understand what that means, don't worry, you don't need it. We do not re-estimate for Standard 6. We have the option. I'm going to show you where they do it in EVAAS, but I don't use it. When it comes to status, because we do know that this is emotional for your teachers and very important for them, we want to make sure that they can figure it out with a Casio, with a calculator watch. Once they have individual data, they get a Standard 6. We'll go over that a little bit more later. They get a Standard 6. That Standard 6, once they have 3 years of data, individual data, we divide by 3, and that is their average. That's it, simple division. So your teachers who for the last 3 years have been teaching EOCs, EOGs, and a couple of NCFEs will be getting a status this year. The data that comes out on the 19th will be their 3rd year. That will populate their status. If your teachers haven't done that, then they won't get a status this year. Okay? What we'll do this year, we'll take the last 3 years of data, the average, and that will populate the bottom. We will take the observational standards from last year, they're summative, those 5 observational standards. So those teachers will get a status this year. Last year's 5 observational standards, the 3-year rolling average. Next year, the 5 observational standards that you're populating now for next year, and then that 4th year will be added, and the 1st year will drop off, and we have a new 3-year average. So each year, those 5 observational standards will now populate the top of this, and that 3-year average will always populate the bottom of it. And the reason I just separated myself for visually. To be in need of improvement, that means that any one of their 5 observational standards needs to be developing or not demonstrated. No matter what else happens, if any one of the 5 standards is developing or not demonstrated, they're automatically in need of improvement. If all 5 of them are proficient or higher, and all but like 3.2% of the teachers in the state are at least proficient or higher, so they're proficient or higher in the 5 observational standards, but their 3-year average is red, then they're in need of improvement. Effective, which is roughly 3/4 of our teachers, effective means all 5 observational standards are proficient and their 3-year rolling average is between 2 and -2. That will make them effective. And that's good. Green is money. Green is good. Green is gold. We're happy with effective. Highly effective, where all your teachers want to be and think they are, which is fine. I understand that. Means that all 5 observational standards are accomplished or distinguished, and their 3-year rolling average is blue or above 2.0. Roughly, I think last year it would have been like 16% of them would have been here, 18% of them would have been here. I forgot the exact, I have the exact numbers, I'll show you later. That's their status. Oh, Karen's gone. Did you guys do any waivers this year for ASW or NCFEs? Okay, we don't have to talk about that then, good. So we talked earlier about school-wide data. If at any point you have a teacher who received the same score as your standard 8, it doesn't count. It was a placeholder. We were required by Race to the Top to give everybody a standard 6, and so we had to put it in there as a placeholder. School-wide data does not count for this. Now, if you guys would have done a waiver, which I was just told you didn't, then it does, but you guys didn't do a waiver. Did you guys do ASW this year? Your teachers do ASW? Your teachers did NCFEs? So that counts, what they did last year, what they're about to get, that counts as year 1 towards their status. Nothing else in the past counted unless they taught an EOG, EOC, or something like that. Okay. So we have a caveat this year, which is kind of cool. Because those teachers are the first group of teachers to get a status, so, and it's by cohort. So the EOG and EOC teachers and a couple of the NCFE teachers, this will be the first year anybody gets a status. This group of teachers, we take their best of 2. Your ASW teachers, if they taught this year's ASW and 2 more years of ASW, they'll have their first year and 2 more years. We'll take their best of 2. Same with K2. This is their first year of K2 data that counts. 2 more years, they will get their status. We'll do best of 2. NCFEs, if this is their first group, they'll get best of 2 when those come online fully. Any.
Sorry, when you say this is the first year, you mean the 14, 15 data are the first data?
The teachers who are getting their status on the 19th, or whenever we release the educator effectiveness dashboards, whether it will be right around Thanksgiving, that will be best of 2. And it'll be in the, you don't have to explain that. All you have to explain is why. It'll say best of 2. And we're sending out, I crafted an email about it. We'll send that email out to you guys. But best of 2. Now, let's say that you have teachers EOG, EOC, but this is only the second year of teaching last year. So next year, look at their first status. They don't get best of 2. It's only the teachers who got a status this year who taught an EOG and EOC for the last 3 years. It's only teachers who taught ASW for the first 3 years will get the best of 2. Anybody else, and if you switch between, I don't know the exact answer on those, to be honest, but I don't think they're going to get best of 2. I really don't. Depends on where they go. Like 4th grade to K2, they'll probably never get a best of 2. Does that help? Standard 8. If you have a standard 8 for the last 2 years and you got a standard 8 this year, you will get best of 2. Nobody else going forward, ever. This is the only year of it. So if you're an AP right now, this is your first year of doing anything, you're never going to get the best of 2, okay? Or a principal right now. I've got more slides on that go into it, but we don't really need to go into the detail of that. What questions do you or your teachers have about the status? Remember, the standard 6, to be green, needs to be between 2 and negative 1.9999999. To be red, they have to be below, they have to be negative 2 or lower. To be blue, they have to be positive 2 or higher. Yeah. Actually, no, be green, you can be negative 2, exactly. It's negative 2.001 to be red. They give you that little bump, which is nice of them, I think. Okay, what questions do you or your teachers have about status? This is the first conversation you really have to have about that, is this year. Got a question, mate? Just deep breath, okay. Hey, real quick, I just want to show you this. I think this is pretty cool. Remember we talked earlier? Observational standards are vertical, 3.5%. If we use just observational standards, 1 through 5, 3.5% of the teachers would be red in need of improvement. Half of them would be effective, half of them would be changing the face of education. Is that accurate? Is only 3 or 4 out of 100 teachers need improvement, need some help, need some more support? If we include standard 6, 16% of them would be in need of improvement, 1/6. 1 out of 6 teachers needs a little more support. 2/3 would be really good teachers, and 1 out of 5 would be exemplar teachers. That's when we add the standard 6, and not just observational standard. That's why I think it's very powerful, because it helps us understand that some of our teachers need a little more support. Okay, oh no, there it is. What questions do you all have about anything we've talked about today?
So when we pull up the EVAAS data, will it clearly tell us the teacher status for each teacher?
Once the educator effectiveness dashboards are out, which should be in the next 2 weeks, hopefully, they will, yes. It'll say, so when you look at your dashboard or theirs, it'll say 5 standards, it'll say accomplished, distinguished, proficient, whatever, and then it'll say the 3 years of data. Now, if they had a placeholder, there'll be a blank there, and they'll say NDA, no data available. And then it'll say the 3 years, and then if they get a status, it'll say best of 2, and underneath it'll say overall status. Everybody will say overall status, but not everybody will have one. If you have one, that's your status. And it'll say exactly which years are being used, and it'll say what's your overall status with your averages.
Would you go back to that last chart?
Sure. This one?
So you said that 20% across the state were deemed highly effective.
If we would have given the status last year.
If we had given it best 2 out of 3. But then look at how the chart does down the other way, under highly effective. That makes it look like 46%.
That's if we only use observational standards and not standard 6. If we only use, and that's the point we're trying to make.
Okay?
No, you made the point. That's exactly right. That would have shocked me too. That's exactly right. That made me happy. I like that. All right. So if we're back at the wiki, this takes a little maneuvering. I want to make sure that everybody knows where this is, because I want you to go back to this one for sure. We're back at the front of the wiki. If you scroll down a little bit on the wiki, it says step-by-step principal use of EVAAS. We're going to go through this about 20, 30 minutes, and then we're going to get in your data, okay? It's on the wiki, on the EVAAS Wiki. It's not in the EVAAS website where you're looking at your data. It's right there.
Right here.
Booyah, right there. We good? You got it. You know where it's at? Scroll down a little bit and you'll find it. Where it says for, right there, where it says for principals. Okay, first thing you're going to see is a step 1. I'm going to go through these very, very quickly because the third one's the most important one. I really suggest if at any time you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to the wiki. It spells it all out for you. May, what's your name again? I got your name once. What's your name? Dave. Dave and I were talking during the break, and he said something about his school's data. And I said, hey, can I look at your school's data? And he said, yeah. What did I ask you to? What report did I ask you to look at? No, what report did I ask you? Decision dashboard. First thing I asked was the decision dashboard. This is the 30,000-foot view of your school. Now, when you look at the decision dashboard, it gives you all the EOGs and EOCs. I'm hoping this year they were going to do NCFEs. I don't think they did. I would like them to, they will be in the future, but right now, we're just doing EOGs and EOCs. So middle schools, you have a ton of data. Elementary and high school, a little bit less. And right there, I can look at my school and see by quintile how my groups of students are doing, how I'm doing with my groups of students. What can you see from that data up there? Now, you ladies are looking at the pie chart, which is actually a little bit better because those pie swaths. Right above this in the decision dashboard, they're pie swaths, and they'll actually say the size of each group of students. It gives you a tiny bit more data, which I like.
Sometimes the colors aren't right.
Let's talk about that.
Sometimes the colors are not aligned. And that, I think you have to look at your numbers.
I'll tell you right now why. Standard error. I'll show you in a second, okay? I promise. So if we look up here, please everybody look up at this decision dashboard we have on the screen. What do we know? Red is below expected growth. Blue is above, green is expected growth. What do we notice about any of these groups? What about 7th grade math? Across the board, 7th grade math does not meet expected growth. What else do we notice? Math 1 is red. Come on, guys, you went right to the red. What else do you notice? All right. How easy is it to turn a red situation around? Really hard, isn't it? But how easy is it to go to that blue group and say, what are you doing? Why are you successful? How are you doing it with these kids? And then what do? Go to the 7th grade group and say, hey, this is what your 6th grade group is doing. That's a lot easier to replicate success. To turn around what's not going well is not the easiest thing, but to replicate success, much easier. I'm a Lions fan, unfortunately. The most unsuccessful American sports franchise out there. It is impossible to turn us around. But how easy has it been for New England to just replicate their success? They know what's successful for them, cheating, and they just keep replicating it and keep replicating it. I'd rather be a Patriots fan because at least I know we're going to be successful year after year after year. Detroit, oh my gosh, I can't believe we won last night. So we go to the blue, find the successes, then try to replicate that for our red situations. The next report I asked to look at was my diagnostics. Now these are not what they look like now. We're going to talk about them. Oh, shoot. All right. I don't have a picture of value added, so I'm going to have to, when I pull it up, I'm going to show you something that'll answer your question about why the colors aren't right, because I don't want to take a minute to do that right now. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Okay. This is where, okay, I'm going to stop everybody right now. This is the most important conversation we're going to have today. So if you're looking at your own personal data, please turn your computer down. This is going to be more important to your teachers than what you're looking at right now, okay? And I'm not overselling this. We worked at this, this is a joint effort between SAS and DPI. We made this about a year ago, and I like it. This is a teacher report. This is what they will see. They'll see the value add is the first thing that pops up. It is not useful, but we're going to go over it anyways because they're really involved with this. That re-estimation is right there. It says multi-year trend. That's what their status would be if we would have chose to do re-estimation. You can't determine it with Casio. We didn't use it. It's good to know where that teacher's been over the last few years, what they're actually doing, but it's not their status. I want them to know that, okay? Because it will be different more times than not from the dividing by 3. Growth measure, combined value added of all the students. Standard error, how many students, how much we know about them, their volatility. We take their growth measure, we divide it by their standard error, we get their index, their standard 6. The least important information you can give a teacher. What is a 2.2 compared to a 3.2? What is a 4 compared to a 6? It doesn't equate to anything. The only thing it tells me is how different I am from the average teacher in the state. But once you get past the 2 to -2, I can't tell you that an 8 is any better than a 6. I can't tell you that. All I can tell you is above a 2, you're significantly different from the average teacher in the state. Anything below -2, you're significantly different from the average teacher in the state. Anything between 2 and -2, you're within average of the state teacher. That's it. That's all it tells me. Now, we renorm our data every single year. Why? Like I said, when we go to those really hard tests, those new tests, and the scores all go down, we have to renorm it. Every year our teachers do better, we need to renorm it. If we benchmarked, it would be quicker, easier, and cheaper, but the data would not be nearly as accurate or useful. When a teacher tells me they're standard 6, I literally tune them out. I don't care what it says. I care about the next report. I go to the teacher, did I just record that? I go to their teacher diagnostic. This is a teacher diagnostic. This is where they should be spending all of their time. Anytime they spend an EVAAS, it should be right here. Almost all of it. The green horizontal line is an average year's worth of growth. 5th grade ELA. That's an average 5th grade ELA Average years with growth, right there. If you're at that line, great. The blue bars are the most recent year. The gold bars, I'm really sorry, it's an average of our up to our last 3 years. I begged and pleaded, found out everybody agrees with me at SAS, but they didn't change it. I don't know why. I'm fighting this. I want it next year to be a drop down where you can choose what year it is. That would be so much more powerful. And I don't know why they didn't do it. I asked them over a year ago, they still haven't done it. And everybody agrees with me, which is funny. The whiskers. What are the whiskers? Standard error. Solid black is 1 standard error. Dashed black is 2. At the state, we use 2 standard errors for everything. You can use whichever one you want. If you are within 2 standard errors, that means you're within average. So if that black dashed whisker crosses the green line at any time, you meet expected growth for the state. If in that first they're called tertiles, by the way, and I'll tell you where they come from in a second. That first tertile, see how the whole whisker is below the green line? That means that group is red, does not meet expected growth. The next 2, they both cross the green line. They're green, they meet expected growth for the state. If they're fully above, it's blue, it exceeds expected. That's all there is to it. The 3 groups, those students who are in those groups were predicted to score in the thirds of the state. Where they did compared to the thirds of the state. So those 6 kids in tertile 1 were predicted to score in the bottom third of the state that year. The middle one predicted to score in the middle third of the state. The top one, top third of the state. It's not your school, it's not your district, it's statewide. Why is that important? Why is the breaking up by tertiles so important to us? Somebody put it in the poll everywhere. Perfect answer. That's it. This teacher right here, we have some things we can work on, but we have some things that are successful. This is a teacher in Region 4. Testing accountability person brought this situation to my attention. This was their diagnostic the year before. Her standard 6 was a 0.1, right at average, and she was happy. She was happy with that. But she knew better than to stop there. She kept going and she looked at her teacher diagnostic. What is she happy with here? She did well with her middle kids. Who could she have done better with? Her lowest and her highest kids. She could have done better. She was still 0.1. She was right at average. But she said, I'm going to do better. Now, we're going to go through a process here. But before we go through this process, I want to remind you, the teachers are human beings. They can't do everything. You know that, I know. So I go by a couple rules. It is unfair to ask a teacher to change more than 5% of what they do on a daily basis. Superintendent comes back, went to some seminar and saw, we're going to now teach math this way. Everybody's going to do it this way. And for 3 weeks you go and do walkthroughs and they're doing it. What happens about 2 weeks later after that? They go back to their old ways because you changed too much. It's unfair to ask a teacher to change more than 5% of what they do on a daily basis. It's also unprofessional for them not to be willing to change 5% of what they do on a daily basis. It does swing both ways on that one, okay? It's up to you what 5% is. Also, if we're changing everything, how do we know what was successful and what wasn't? Make small changes, make a few changes, see how they play out. That's it. So that's what this teacher did. In the following year, her blue, she was at 2.2. She went from right at average to exceeding expected growth the following year. Who was she successful with? Everybody. Everybody. And all it took was, and we've all been there. Anybody ever videotape their golf swing? You had a hitch like Charles Barkley? All she did was look at her teaching practice in a different way, asked a few questions, got some support from her principal. I wasn't reaching my top and lowest kids like I thought I was. That's all it's telling. It's not saying you're a bad teacher. It's not saying you did a bad job. It's just saying you could have more support. Now, do not read the question, please. I need a guinea pig. What's your name, mate? Ed. Good. It's easy to remember name. Ed is a teacher. I'm the principal. Look at your data on the left, Ed. Don't read the question, please. See your data on the left? That's your teacher diagnostic. Ed, you know at this school we pride ourselves in reaching all of our kids. Why didn't you do very well with your level 1 kids? Is there a reason that your achievement group 1 kids had negative growth? Ed, I want to know what the heck happened in your class last year that those kids didn't grow. Ed, how are you going to feel? Not too good. A little on the defensive. Not very proud of me as a principal. Not very supported. Okay. So read the question instead. Read that question, everybody. What would be your answer to that, Ed? Achievement group 1. Would you feel attacked in any way? Come on. Hey, look at that, man. What would you like to have seen improve from last year? Everybody's going to say achievement group 1. I'm treating you like a professional. I want your opinion. Question 2. I'm not going to read to you guys. You guys can all read it. I want you guys all to read that to yourselves, and then we're going to have a really fun conversation. Okay, folks. You ask a teacher that question, and what answers are you going to get? Come on, have fun with me. Say it. What is it?
Blame it on the students.
There you go. What else? Come on. Where are my high school principals? Raise your hand. Whose fault is it? Middle school. Middle school. Where's my middle school principals? Whose fault is it? Elementary principals. Whose fault is it? Parents. Right? It's Will's fault. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Will. It's Will's fault. Come on. What are some other reasons? What are some other reasons those kids weren't successful? Thank you. What else? Say it again? Yeah. Oh, they were a really tough group this year. What else? Emily, what else from your table? Attendance. That's a great one, Emily.
They came from another school, we only had them for like 9 weeks.
Okay, then they wouldn't even be in this.
Okay, never mind. They came to us after the first 9 days of school, or they worked with us last year.
Sure.
And now they're here now.
That's a great one. I haven't heard that one before. That was excellent. ESL, EC, parent involvement, poverty,
Scoring patterns.
single family home. What?
It's scoring patterns, so it doesn't really.
Say that loud and proud.
But they all know. It's scoring patterns.
It's not really scoring patterns, but it's taken in consideration.
Apples to apples.
All right, I like that. Because why? Because we use their testing history. So that kid who came from poverty, did they come from poverty last year? Yes. Were they ESL last year? They come from EC last year. How many kids did you have from a different school? It's taken into consideration because that's a part of my academic ability. It's part of my DNA. I test as a student. I could come from wealth with all the advantages in the world, but I just don't care. Is that first year? No. So they test the students who have that as a part of their DNA. Now, I'll give you my favorite example. Some of you might have heard it, but I love doing it. I was in Randolph County down the road. Oh, it's not down the road here, but Randolph County. And I had a PE teacher say, what about that kid who sleeps 5 days a week? How am I going to get him to pass the test? Once again, he's talking proficiency. I understand. Don't worry about it. We're not talking about that. He goes, how am I going to get that kid to pass the test? I said, sir, does he only sleep in your class? No, he sleeps in every class. Because if he only slept in his class, then it's him. No, sleeps in every class. Is this the first year that kid has ever slept in class? No, he's been doing it for years. Well, then he's predicted to score as a student who sleeps 5 days a week. I said, but my suggestion, I was in front of a table, I yell at him because he's in an auditorium. I said, wake him up. If he sleeps 4 days a week, that's growth. That's the easiest example I can give. So I already used Bird as an example one time. The kid who the day of finds out his parents are going to divorce, yeah, he's going to tank your test. Or the kid halfway through the year starts doing drugs. They're going to tank your test. I know. It's one kid out of all your kids. It's not going to affect your scores. And I, as a principal, know that that one kid is a part of that. We can account for that. Now, this half of the class starts doing drugs, yeah, your scores are in the tank. But we know that as a school. We know that's not indicative of your teaching. It's indicative of what's going on in our community, whatever, however you want to handle it. So the other thing is you put them in two categories. So you can use those examples. It's not about the kids. Because academically speaking, Those kids are all pretty much the same kids every year, academically speaking. If that doesn't help, I have one other way I handle this. I put all of the complaints or disagreements in two categories: what I can control and what I can't control. What's the one thing a teacher can control in the classroom? The adult behavior themselves, the instruction. So now let's ask that question again, knowing this question is about the adult behavior in the room. So Ed, what do you think happened last year? Ed comes back with, I didn't do guided reading the right way, I didn't group them the way I did. Those kids were all in my after school program. I guess I have to rework my after school program, a myriad of things that those kids were a part of, that you know you could have done better with those kids. That's it. It's not saying you screwed up. It's saying, Ed, I know you did the best you could. What do you think you could have done differently? That's it. That's it. Third question. Now, this is a fun one. Because Ed at this point is going to do what? Impress me with all the strategies he's ever heard in his life, right? That's what they're going to do. Do not ask this question in isolation. Ask this question and give them time. A week, 2 weeks. Research it. Talk to your colleagues. Then come back with, you know what, I'd really like to try this next year. I think this, Worksheets Don't Grow Dendrites by Marcia Tate. So Miss Ellerby, I don't even know if there's an Ellerby. Miss Ellerby really liked that and it helped her. Okay, why don't you try that? Why don't you read that? Talk to me about it. I'm treating Ed like a professional who knows his profession. There's a lot more buy-in, isn't it? Because it's the strategy that Ed came up with. Now, we all know that teacher who's really good at guided reading, but isn't very good at math, teaching math. And there's a seminar, there's math or guided reading. Which one's she going to go to? Guided reading, because it's her favorite. We all know. We've all been through an MSA program or two. We know that we've got to encourage them to stretch. Real quick, this is another time I give a shout out. If you need math instruction support in your school, I'm a big fan of Stephen Leinwan's Accessible Mathematics. It's good, isn't it? And it's awesome, isn't it? It's the best book. It's $15, 84 pages. It'll take them an hour and a half to read. It'll change the way they teach immediately. It's fantastic. I'll talk to you guys about that afterwards if you want. Steve Leinwan, Leinwand, Accessible Mathematics. He does not give me any royalties. I have met him. He's insane. So, Ed and I have had a conversation. He's going to start doing X and Y, and that's it. But who are the babies sitting in the desk today that are in that achievement group 1? Because that was last year's kids, right? Those kids are gone. Those kids are in somebody else's, there's somebody else's problem. What about the kids now?
That's a great question, because if you would have the conversation of question 3, and they come up with things, then your next question is, then we should be able to use those things to target those.
Perfect. Exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a custom student report.
Does that calculate by itself?
But they don't have this year's.
They do now. They do as of Thursday. Yep. If you run a custom student report right now, don't do it, please. Wait a minute. Ed, what do you teach? 7th grade ELA. So Ed's teaching 7th grade ELA. He puts in EOG for assessment, then 7th grade ELA. And then I always just run mine for level 3. I just do that. Level 3, 0 to, and make my upper and lower bound 0 to 100%. Boom, that's my report. All the kids that are assigned to Ed as a teacher, if your kids don't show up, you can add them later. That's a Power School linkage thing. Got to figure that out. Here's all my kids. This is their probability they will score a level 3 on the 7th grade EOG. Here is the projected percentile. Remember, this isn't a prediction, this is a projection. According to last year's kids, here's what they would have got if this was last year's test. 1 through 33 is achievement group 1. 34 through 66 is achievement group 2. 67 through 99 is achievement group 3. The purple group is the group that Ed is going to focus this on. Isn't that awesome? This I didn't know about until 18 months ago. I would have loved to have had this every time I presented for years. I just learned about this. A lot of teachers don't know about it because principals don't know about it. Please show your teachers how to do this. The last step in the process is please give them support. Study in New York was done. 80-some-odd% of teachers said they would take a principal that supported them over a sizable pay increase. You guys are the linchpin for all of these teachers. All this negativity that you feel from them, you can be the and get them positive about this again, about teaching and everything. You guys are great. I love it. Right here is the video. How to create a custom student report, video tutorial. If you click on it, you'll hear my former colleague's voice. It's a very nice voice, much nicer than mine. Just click on it, send that link out to your teachers. You can email it to them right now, and they'll watch the video, then create a custom student report for their students. Simple as that. Now, I do want to warn you. You cannot, now that, like next year, kids take the test, you get their actual percentile afterwards. You can't line it up, do a difference, and get their growth scores. It doesn't work that way. So please don't do that. This is for instructional purposes. They actually, any saved projection report actually gets deleted once the tests are taken because they don't want people doing that. Because it won't be accurate. Okay? Because these are projections. Those are according to last year's test. We got to wait for this year.
This year's students.
But you can't get all their counterparts. So remember, it's compared to their counterparts. You can't do the predictions on your own. There's no way. Because you can't.
It's the same when you do the custom student report.
That's their projection.
So if I was a second grade teacher, I would choose second grade.
Second grade doesn't have it.
First grade.
Third grade's the lowest it goes.
Third grade.
So you can do third grade. It'll be all the kids in their class, and it'll give you their projections, the projected percentile. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they would choose their current grade, third grade,
Yes, ma'am.
even though the children have not taken a third.
Right. So what it does is it uses last year's kids who have a similar testing history, and how did they do on last year's test. But once again, we don't know how difficult it was compared to this year's test. That's the only difference. If the tests were uniform and we could guarantee that they're the same, we could do these. We wouldn't have to do predictions. It'd be so much easier on everybody, but we can't do that. Yes, ma'am.
You might not be remembering correctly, but I think if you click on the links under the percentile that are projected, you can see what standard scale score they're projecting.
You might be able to. I don't know. I've never done it.
So as we can see the scale score that's predicted,
It's projected, not predicted.
projected. If we get the scale scores by clicking on that link, and then we get the scale scores from the actual report,
Mm-hmm.
can we kind of see that?
Sure, you can do it, but you shouldn't. And it's, what'd you say? Ballpark. It's a ballpark. You could be way off, but you could be right on. I don't know. So I'm going to tell you something I'm not supposed to tell you. Yeah, you can do that, and you could actually get the thirds and come up with your own teacher diagnostic, and you can use that over the summer if you want, knowing it could be completely wrong. But if you want to do that, I'm not going to stop you, and I might even do it if I was a principal, knowing it could be completely wrong. Okay? So there's no problem with that. We're never going to tell you not to. If you think it helps your teachers, do it. If your teachers think it helps, do it. It might not be worth your time because it could be completely wrong. All right. What questions do you have? Please, please, please run these 5 questions with your teachers a few times and see how it works. We've seen really good success out of it. All right. If you don't have your EVAAS login, go to your email and search for EVAAS or SAS. At some point, you got to log in. If you still don't have it, go to the EVAAS homepage and try to log in and go forgot password, forgot username. I don't have any access to that. They'll send it to you immediately, okay? We are going to pull up our own data. I'm going to show you a few things, and then we're going to talk about some stuff. At any point, what time are we going to, Kim? Okay. I am happy to sit with you and talk about your data, knowing all I can see is your data. I don't even know the name of your school. I don't know your teachers. I don't know anything about your students. All I know is the data. And I can tell you what it says to me and how I would say it to a teacher. But put that filter on there. Please, everybody, go ahead and access your data, and we will get cooking here. Jeez, I got a lot of stuff open. Fucking passwords. That was a terrible cough. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yes. Okay. I got to show you a few things before we get into it too much. Okay. If you ever want to show your data, you must first hide information. To hide information, we go up to account, and you can hide or show anything up here. So if you want to show your PLC's data, you don't have to tell people what PLC it is. If you're going to show a teacher report, you gotta hide it. If you're going to show a teacher report, I would get the permission long time in advance with no pressure. I don't know how I feel about showing teacher reports. I personally, I'm a teacher, yeah, show my report, whatever it is, even if it was negative, as long as we're going to learn from it. But not everybody's like that, so be very, very careful. Even though you're comfortable, maybe they're not. So I'm happy to talk about anybody's data. Oh, I want to show you one thing real quick. The question about the data being wrong. This is New Hanover. Can I show district information, Kim? Can I show your district information? Does everybody have access to that? Okay. I assume so. I just never know. I always ask. New Hanover County Schools. All right. You guys ready? What's your name again? I've met you like 19 times. Robin. Okay. I'll give you an example. Can I stand on this? 1.0. Blue. Should it be blue or green? That's the growth measure. You got to divide by your standard error. 1.0 divided by 0.3 is 3.33. So that's actually, their value added is actually a 3.3. Yes, it is blue. So another, like right here, 1.8 divided by 0.3 is 6. I don't know why they do it this way. Right here, 0.6 divided by 0.3 is -2, red. So it's not that the colors are wrong, it's that these are growth measures divided by your standard error. I don't know why they do it that way. I honestly have never asked, and I'm starting to get tired of, because people, it makes sense. 1.0, that's your value added. It makes sense. I don't know why they do it that way. For standard, this is really good data, by the way. This is really good. What year are we in? Right down here? Yeah, so 15. We're good. -2, you're right at the cusp. 6 standard errors above, 4 standard errors below, 2 point whatever. This is good data. I like all this blue up here. Look at all this. So that's why the colors aren't wrong. Those are growth measures instead of value added. Does that help, Robin?
So growth measures divided by the standard error, that's the growth measure. So sometimes the one would show up as blue,
Right,
because when you divided the growth by the standard error, it would be something greater than 2.
exactly.
And that's different from the value added, just numbers.
Well, the 1.0 divide, so any index, your teacher index, your principal index, that is a ratio of growth measure over standard error, and that's what we call our value added score. Some people use those terms interchangeably. So whenever I say value added, I mean the ratio of growth measure and standard error, your eventual value there. But once again, what is a 3.3 compared to a 2? Compared to a 4? I don't know. So once again, I like to go to the diagnostic reports. There's a couple ways of getting there. You can go up here to reports and go to diagnostic, or you can click on the hyperlink and it'll take you to the diagnostic. That's excellent. All right, so let's pretend, and this happened to me once. Principal came to me and said, my 7th grade ELA, they're doing great, they're blue, they're doing excellent. And they were. But what happened was this data was pretty similar, but that level 1, achievement group 1, was really negative. So overall, they're blue. But he was actually increasing the achievement gap at his school because his level 1 kids weren't growing nearly as much as his top kids. So the perfect one is everybody's growing, but your lowest kids are growing at a rate higher than your lowest kids. So we're all moving up, but these kids are just moving up faster. That's the perfect for closing the achievement gap. This, outstanding. That's outstanding. Let's look at a couple other ones. Let's look at this one, because it's right on the cusp. I know there's some successes. Yeah, middle, we're doing fine. Those are all, so if we look right there, each quintile is green, but the composite of them all, because the standard error is lower, makes the overall barely red. It's barely red. That's an average year's worth of growth right there. I'm not losing my mind about that at all. Now, are there areas we can improve? Sure. There's always things we can do better. But overall, I don't think that's a problem. This is 4th grade math for the district. For the district. I'm not showing any schools. I won't do that. Let me see another one. Let's look at this one. Okay. So right here, the overall value added for this 5th grade group of math students is 0.1 divided by something. It's green. It's right at average. But obviously, we have some things we can improve. Now, I want to show you one other thing. A reason this is so important that we talk about the difference between blue and gold is look right here. Previous years, we were exceeding expected growth. And then last year, suddenly, we do not meet expected growth. That's not by chance. That's not dumb luck. Something in the district changed for 5th grade math. Now, this is the entire district. So it's more than likely a resource curriculum. It's more a programmatic decision. But in your school, that may be teacher moved. Okay, so what about that teacher changed? We got a new teacher in there. Okay, what was the old teacher doing that was so successful that the new teacher isn't? That's the conversation. Same thing here. That's a big change from year to year. So something happened at the district right here. We went from blue across the board to green. I'm not terribly upset, but something did change. Something changed. I'm sorry if I'm saying anything I'm not supposed to or get anybody in trouble. I apologize. I'm just telling you what the data says. Something changed in the district to cause that from previous cohorts to last year. Now, because that's an average, that may be it changed 2 years ago, but the data before was so much better that the average still looks above. I don't know what year in the last 3 years it changed or if it was last year. I don't know. You guys do, I'm assuming, or can find out pretty quickly. All right. I'm gonna look at this last one. Reason I go to math is you have more peaks and valleys in math. Most ELA is more green, math has more red and blue. It's a nationwide thing. So things are going really well here. We just need a little more focus on our top. We're good to go. Yeah. And that's the largest group of students in there too, which is interesting.
Quick question.
Please.
Like her link on the side where you can click and you can get the students, hers work, but mine does not. What am I doing wrong? Because you can click on the side and get the kids.
What school are you at? Fourth
College
grade?
Park, yeah,
Yeah, you should be able to.
right.
I don't know why it's not.
Okay, who do I call? Ghostbusters?
Yeah. Send it, help ticket to SAS. Up in the right corner says contact us. If you guys have any questions about the system itself, like why it's not working right, I got no say in that. Go up to contact us. They've got a help desk, way better than TNL. They'll get you an answer in 24 hours. They're really good. TNL might never get an answer. But SAS, they're really good about it. Okay. All right. Leave you to your own devices. If you have any questions whatsoever, please raise your hand. I'm more than happy to come over and talk with you about it.